I grew up as part of the generation that used to cut your movies by hooking up two VHS decks to each other and hitting play and pause and trying to time it really well. And so we have achieved this like Star Trek level of technology. I'm not even here right now. This is a hologram.
It's weird. My head will pass through.
But I'm glad that the technology has advanced. But I think what we might be losing sight of in that process, because we're so sort of hypnotized by the doodads, is story, character, and emotion. And your software is not going to teach you that. You have to turn back to books. Fine, you can read them on your iPad if you want. But just good old-fashioned storytelling from an emotional point of view. I think I've been somewhat dissatisfied by a lot of movies, and especially the tentpole movies, because there's no heart. There's no poetry. I don't feel anything. It's just CGI explosions and, gotta turn off the device before the countdown, and I have a gun, and it's just, and like you just don't feel anything. And I think that it's because of that. We've all developed collective ADD because my phone's vibrating now. We're all pulled in 90 different directions, but if you're really going to tell a story that affects people emotionally, and it's not like everything has to be a tearjerker. It's not that. Make me laugh. Make me care about your characters. Again, there's no filter. There's no button that's going to achieve that. You have to go back and learn the basics of storytelling, how to establish characters that you can empathize with and your audience can identify with, because that's what's going to get them to invest. But I always like to say that when you do a genre film, whether it's superheroes, horror, fantasy, or whatever, go back and just as sort of a thought experiment, take out all your aliens and your monsters and your ghosts, and if you can take the characters in from what's left and still tell a compelling story, then you have something. If your story completely falls apart, then you still have work to do. The example I used earlier was The Exorcist, right? One of the best classic horror films out there. You could tell that exact same story, that same movie, without the demon or the possession element. And it's just a story about a woman dealing with a mentally ill daughter. Same thing with the good hero story. It's like you should be able to take out the superpowers and still be left with characters that matter. And I just worry that if we just get caught up with the technology and the streaming and the ADD of it, we're going to forget the emotional core, and that's what matters. That's what's going to make your film stand out from the rest. Make people laugh, make them cry, make them jump out of their seats screaming.